The Stanley Cup will be in the building for Game 4 on Saturday night. The Oilers can't even begin to wonder what it'd be like to be able to hoist it. All they want to do right now is make sure the Panthers don't get to raise it at center ice after game number 4. To talk about that, let's go right to Edmonton right now. Bring in Ryan Rishaug and Chris Johnston. Guys, two teams in dramatically different positions right now. The Panthers trying to close. The Oilers just trying to survive. I guess not surprisingly, they handled the off day in vastly different ways, right?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty chill day for the Florida Panthers, it sounded like, CJ, and you can talk about that in a minute. But for the Oilers, very rare, Gino, this deep into the playoffs for you to do a full practice the morning after a game, the way the Oilers did today. Chris Knoblauch had the entire group out there, a couple of line tweaks here and there, but a pretty good practice. And I think, CJ, this was as much about just giving his group something to sink their teeth into, right? Rather than coming in, having it be a quiet day where everybody just meetings and optionals and that kind of stuff. He got the group together. He got them skating. He got them sweating. They're in a tough spot here. And CJ, the whole thing today struck me as Chris Knoblauch just wanting to keep his group active and less time to sit and ponder.
Yeah, and look, he wants to do something different. The Panthers, where they're sitting up 3-0, they just want to stick to the same old routine that they have, and that was the routine that you would mention that we would expect from any team here. It's been a long season, a long playoffs. Just have a rest day, do recovery, maintenance on the bodies. Have a team meeting, make sure everyone's minds are in the right place, and get ready to have a skate tomorrow before the game and go and try to win a Stanley Cup. And so, you don't sense there's any stress on the Panthers. They're a healthy team. They're in a healthy position right now to win a championship. And so, from them, it was just like another day at the office. Very different feel and look to their day than what Edmonton
Matthew Tkachuk said it's a calm, chill day. That's how he described it, was a calm, chill day. The funny thing is, Gino, is this is the point in the series when all the cliches come out, right? Like, that's all that you can do at this point. But the funny thing is the cliches are exactly the same for both teams. Both teams are subscribing to the same set of cliches, one game at a time.
Okay, but here's the question. I want to figure out why we got to the position that we are, and I think we've got vastly different opinions of how we got here. I remember Leon Draisaitl, in the last round of the Western Conference Final, said, hey, I think at the end of the day, we're the best team out here when we're playing our best. Now, this best team out there is just a game away from losing the Stanley Cup Final. So here's the question. Is it the Florida Panthers who are playing superior hockey, or the way Zach Hyman described it on this off day is saying, hey, our only problem here is we've given away so many freebies. All we got to do is stop giving the Panthers freebies and we'll win the games. Where do you guys land on this?
You want a paper, rock, scissors for that one? Loser, just best of one, loser.
Sure.
Yeah. One, 2, 3,
You show
go.
on 3?
Yeah, show on 3.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, you got it.
No, you got it.
Okay.
Loser has to answer that one.
Okay.
That's a tough question, Gino.
Well, this is how I view it. But I do. There's clearly too many freebies. I mean, Chris Knoblauch said that their stats from last night's game showed that they spent 50 seconds in the D zone in the second period, which they view as a positive sign about what they're doing. Well, they gave up 3 goals in that period. And obviously part of that comes on, the one Skinner misplays a little behind the net, doesn't get set in position. You got a chance where they didn't clear it out of the zone. It ends up in the net quickly, and then a rush opportunity for Barkov. But, I really do believe that for stretches, it's not like Florida is just dominating the entire series.
No.
But their details have been good. Their goaltending's been great. And their best players have found a way to make a bigger mark in this series than Edmonton's have. And that's not to say, McDavid and Draisaitl have had their looks, they've had their chances, but they haven't broken through. And so I do think it is a bit of a case of a couple freebie goals and just, little marginal differences. But most times you get this deep, obviously these are two great teams, lots of great players on the ice. And sometimes it is just those small little details. And I think the fact that Florida is healthy and raring to go, and where it feels like Edmonton is just trying to patch together its lineup, there might just be a little extra in that too for the Panthers.
I thought Zach Hyman hit the nail on the head today too, Gino, when he said in key moments they've just shown a little bit more maturity. The Oilers in key moments of that game last night, they go through that 6-minute stretch, and it's not just one mistake, and then everyone goes, okay, everybody buckle down.
Reset.
Reset. It's mistake, and then another mistake, and then another mistake, and next thing you know, you're chasing this game in a way where you're just not going to catch it. So, In a way, the Oilers have been the architects of their own demise in some of these games. The Florida Panthers have had a tremendous amount to do with that by the way they stick to this system that they play, how good they are. And then in the little moments where they have slipped, Gino, Sergei Bobrovsky is there just being absolutely spectacular. So the Oilers have had their looks. We talked to Chris Knobloch today about expected goals and what the chances say and what the shots say and the shot share. And all the numbers say that the Oilers should not be in this position, but they are. And I can't help but wonder if they don't need to develop, some different types of chances. Just throwing the puck on net. Chris Knobloch doesn't like it when they just throw the puck on net if it's not a good scoring chance. But we saw in that game some of their goals came off of doing exactly that. So we'll see if they feel they need to change anything up or if it's just more of the same and hoping that they actually start to go in.
Can we talk about the Draisaitl dilemma? Because I don't understand this. This is a guy that historically over his career has just come up huge in the playoffs. He's number 5 all time in terms of points per game come the postseason. And yet he doesn't have a single point in the Stanley Cup final. He himself says, I'm very frustrated right now. I pride myself in being good in the playoffs. I got to go look in the mirror to find out what's going on. CJ, do you have any comprehension of what's going on with Draisaitl right now? Could it be as simple as the fact that he's hurt?
It could be, but he's been sort of given a chance, I would say, to maybe even hint at that a little bit.
He wouldn't, though. He wouldn't.
Well, see, I'll defer to you on that, but he certainly is not given any life to that, even like in small ways. Not that any player in the middle of a series, well, I guess one did in the playoffs, but in general, players in the middle of things don't usually tell you exactly what's going on. I think it's certainly a possibility. I mean, you play this many games, over 100 on the season. I can't imagine too many players are feeling, at their absolute best. But he also had a great look in Game 3, right? I mean, he had one in his wheelhouse on the power play there that you're going to see him score on, 7, 8 times out of 10 from that position in open. And I actually asked him about it after the game. He just said, I just didn't quite get it up as much as I wanted, and sort of tipped his cap to Bobrovsky. But I think it's as simple, as any player can go through a 3-game stretch where they don't get a point. Any great player. He's not a total ghost in the series, but now we're sitting around. We got all these off days. We're trying to find answers to these questions, and naturally the flashlight gets pointed in his direction. But I still think he's had some looks. Probably isn't 100%. And look at his numbers speak for himself in terms of he's a clutch guy. Like I don't get the sense he's seizing up in the moment or anything, but it's the wrong time to have a cold stretch.
So, like I said, he would be the last one to point to an injury. I would be surprised if when these playoffs are over, we don't hear something that makes us go, oh, okay.
Right.
Leon Draisaitl had a transition point in these playoffs. Quite frankly, he hasn't been the same since. We're not sure exactly what it is. I believe he's playing with something significant. There's no way that a player that can be that dominant through, so much of the season in the playoffs is diminished to this point. And you appreciate the fact that he's taking accountability, Gino, and he is, and he's not going to use any injuries as an excuse. The other thing I will say that's different from Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl respectfully lugs around 3rd and 4th line players on his line. He does, and he has all playoffs long. He does not have consistent top 6 forwards that are with him every night that can drive the same way he can. And I think that's different than the situation with McDavid, who's got Hyman and Nugent-Hopkins, the other 2 weapons offensively. So a couple of things there, I think, factor into the analysis of Draisaitl.
Following up on that, Draisaitl new line mates again, another shakeup on the second line, and then looking down as well in the bottom 6 as well.
Yeah, Warren Foegele ended up on Draisaitl's wing today. You'll recall it was Ryan McLeod at the start of last game. So Warren Foegele, who had the really nice goal, he bumps up there. He's spent time this year with Leon Draisaitl. Corey Perry remains over on the right side. But again, CJ today, no Darnell Nurse and no Evander Kane again. Kane's loss from this lineup is pretty significant, CJ. He brings elements that the Oilers would need in a series like this.
Well, you just think of the physical aspect of his game, the fact that he would be driving hard to the net, that he wouldn't back down from anyone, and the fact he is another guy in the lineup who, at his best, can score a goal and has done it a lot over his career. Even a couple playoffs ago for the Oilers was one of their big offensive weapons. And at least in Game 3, I mean, if you're looking, it's hard to find positives when a team's down 3-0, but they did get some goals from the Foegels and McLeod.
They did. Yeah.
Obviously, Broberg tipped it and went one as well, but it's not all just the top players, but the Oilers do feel like they just need one more goal. And so Kane would be the guy you'd normally look to. And no one wants to hear this because it sounds like an excuse. And we do know that everyone's playing with something. But the Panthers, to me, just seem healthier, more energetic. Like they haven't been pushed to a Game 7. Maybe they've just had some better luck with players not getting injured, whatever it might be. Whereas Edmonton, it just feels like, yeah, some of these guys are playing, but it's at way less than 100%. They're trying to cobble together a lineup. They played a game in this series where Fogle gets kicked out, so they're down a forward. Nurse can only manage 4 shifts in the last 2 periods, so basically they're down a D. I mean, just feels like Edmonton's been taxed a little bit more, and that's...
who does it remind you of? The Florida Panthers in last year's final, right?
Exactly.
And you wonder, CJ, if maybe they've learned some lessons, right? Maybe getting to a final and being so beat up they just couldn't put their best foot forward. Maybe they take those lessons. Maybe they've applied them during this year's playoffs. I'm not sure how. But here are the Oilers here for the first time, grinding, doing everything they can. But they need all hands on deck to beat this Florida team, and they don't have all hands on deck.
A final thought, guys, before I let you guys go. CJ, you kind of alluded to this, that there were some positives. Something I took away from game number 3 was they got to Bobrovsky. Not only did they score 3 goals, they put him on his butt. At one point, Corey Perry was sitting on top of his head. So they're starting to at least create that traffic in front of the net. Can they take something from that and build on that?
For sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they got one more chance to play a game on June 15th in front of their fans. It's obviously a mountain staring them in the face, but it's all about trying to just build on the fact they pushed back in that game, the fact they had chances. I mean, I thought the Oilers were in a fine spot at 1-1 in that game. In the second period, I thought early on in that period things were going well, and then just bang, 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 those 3 goals go in. There are definitely positive strings in this series for Edmonton, and I think there are things they can build on, and really they just got to keep their mind in small places and win one game.
And the Oilers have earned confidence this year, right? They came back from the dead, and that earns you a certain amount of confidence. Now, do they have supreme confidence, Gino, that they can come back from 3-0 against this team? No, I would say no. But have what they've been through this year earned them enough confidence to feel like they can walk into this building and beat this team on Saturday night? Absolutely. I think this Oiler team will be confident that they can walk into the building and win game 4. And I think if you keep the picture small, one day at a time, that's why these are the cliches. I think they've earned that confidence. But it's when you take a step back and look at the big picture, you probably get overwhelmed. And CJ, that's why they just won't do that.
Well, and look at this, though. Florida's family and friends are getting on a charter plane at 9 a.m. in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow, flying all the way up here with an anticipation of a party to come. The players will obviously know that. I mean, yes, Florida's been great to be here, but this will be a different game for them, too. And so as much as they have every reason to be confident and things have gone well for the Panthers, there's a lot that comes with this Stanley Cup thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so, if I just know if my mom and dad and friends were coming on a plane and it's hard not to get a little bit ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
And so, Edmonton's job right now, obviously to win a game and keep their season going, but it's just put a little seed of doubt in there and then try to let it grow here and find a way back in the series.
We were hoping to make it a surprise tomorrow, CJ, but cat's out of the bag. Your family's on the way. They'll be here tomorrow. Just so you know, bud. It's a big day.
It's going to be a tough hit with you and Gino tomorrow then.
Yeah, exactly.
So in conclusion, according to CJ, make this a headline, all the pressure has now shifted onto the Florida Panthers. The Oilers are not facing any kind of pressure at all right now. Okay, even as I'm saying
No, once again, you've misquoted me, Gino, but that isn't the first.
No. Was it a misquote?
No, even as I was letting those words come out of my mouth, I was like, there's no way. But you know what? The Oilers don't have to win the series. They just have to win on Saturday. CJ, Ryan, thanks, guys.